Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Evenda and today we're going to be making this sound. So this is my version of the lead from Zomboy's track Nuclear, which came out like years and years and years ago, but was one of the tracks that really inspired me to start making bass music. And I thought it would be really cool recently to go back to all that kind of 2010, 2012 bro step era and recreate some of the sounds and bring them up in time to like modernize them with Serum. So what I ended up doing is I ended up putting those presets into a pack that you can download for free on my website. It's called the Scary Monsters Preset Pack. Contains 13 presets. There's a couple Skrillex basses, a couple Zomboy sounds, Porter Robinson lead, and then just some other sounds that I was inspired to make by that era. It's really cool, so go check it out. Like I said, link in the description. It's free to download. Otherwise, let's start making this guy from scratch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to this other track and open up a fresh instance of Serum, and we're going to initialize it. And the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on mono and legato and set the porta time to about between 60 and 90 milliseconds. And that's going to be dependent on your BPM. Notice I'm at 174, which is pretty high, but that's what the track was originally made at. If you're making dubstep, you might be somewhere between 140 and 150. House music, you'll be down in the 120s probably. So just adjust it to taste. All it is the slide between notes. And it makes the MIDI sound like this. So we just kind of get that pitch bending, kind of almost laser-like effect. But we got a long ways to go, so let's get to it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to activate the sub and set it to the square wave, and then we're going to move to Oscillator A and set it to the basic shapes under the analog folder in the stock Serum wavetables. And we're going to set the octave to +1. And then we're going to move to Oscillator B, and we're going to do the same thing, basic shapes, and then the sine wave, and we're going to set it to -3, the octaves to -3. So we're going to get this sound. It's pretty 8-bitty and not close to what we're going to, but when we add on these effects in the effects tab, we'll kind of get a lot closer to gritty dubstep sound. So the first thing we're going to do is the hyper dimension. We'll make sure that's on, and we're going to turn the mix down to like 36%. And then just bump up the detune a little bit. And then we're going to go over to the dimension side here, and we're going to pump the mix all the way up to 100% and drop the size down to about 6. And that's just kind of fill out the stereo width of the sound and make it a little bit big, and so it takes up more space in the stereo field. And then after that, we're going to add the distortion and compression modules. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on multi-band compression on the compressor module, and then we're going to move up to the distortion modes and select hard clip. And then we're just going to turn the drive all the way up as we listen so that we can hear what it's doing to the sound. Cool. It's a little bit quiet coming out of Serum though, so I'm going to gain it up a little bit. So I'm going to add about 5 decibels of gain, and that's it for the effects section. But we still need to make it's a little bit light, and I want it to be a little bit beefier. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the warp mode here to bend minus on the oscillator A and B, and I've noticed both the bend modes can create interesting tones. I prefer the bend minus though, and I'm going to turn it up as we play, and you can hear what it's doing to the sound. So what it did is it makes it a little bit more gritty and a little bit more thick. And you can adjust these to taste. I'm just going to leave them all the way up for this demonstration. But by changing the level of the sub, the level of oscillator B, and the amount of bend minus, you can get a lot of different interesting and different kind of timbres to the sound and make it really your own. And it's really cool. But this sounds a little basic right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a vibrato on top of it, And the way we're going to do that is we're going to move over to the global tab, and we're going to add the double click for typable values control, and we're going to make sure that's turned on. And then we're going to pop over to the matrix section, and we're going to add LFO1 as a source, and as the destination, we're going to set A as the course to A's course pitch, and we're going to set the type to bipolar. And we're going to do that again. We're going to select LFO1, except this time we're going to select B's course pitch as the destination. And again, we're going to set it to bipolar. And then what we're going to do is we're going to double click in the amount and type in 2ST for 2 semitones. We're going to do that for both A and B. And that's just going to keep our vibrato within that nice range that keeps it kind of in key and sounding nice. Right now, though, it won't sound too nice because we haven't set the LFO. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop down to LFO1, turn off anchor, turn off BPM, and drop it down to about 4 Hertz, and we'll give it a listen. So it's pretty rough right now, and we can fix that by adding this note to the rate, and it's going to make it super fast right now, but you'll hear the difference. Still not that good. But what we can do now is we can adjust the amount or the rate, I should say, of the LFO or the vibrato. And we're just going to play the track and adjust downwards as we listen until we find the sweet spot. And we're just going to do that right now. So I think 15/16 sounds pretty good. But I think you'll notice that it doesn't sound all that great, and that's because there's too much vibrato. So what we're going to do is we're going to set in the matrix macro 1 as the aux source for both the A and B course pitch, or the vibrato. And what this is going to do is this is going to give us a dry wet control over how much vibrato we're using. So now we're going to have at 0%, we're going to have no vibrato. And at 100%, we're going to have too much. So what I'm going to do is, again, just play through and adjust upwards to taste until I think it sounds good. So I think about 25% sounds good. And that's basically the sound. But what I like to do, especially since I'm trying to kind of like recreate this sound, is I want to add a little bit of a flourish on these 3 notes here with the vibrato. So in Ableton, what I can do is I can kind of move this knob a little bit so that it pulls up in this menu here. And then what I can do is click this little plus, and I'll get my own automation lane, or a little automation lane just for this parameter. That I can set, and then I can kind of copy and paste without affecting the underlying MIDI or audio channel that's already being played there. So these automation lanes are really useful. Now I can add a little bit of a flourish on this sound just to add some extra human elements and make it a little bit more interesting and professional. So that's sounding decent. If I spent some time, I could get it to sound pretty good. But for the sake of this demonstration, we'll call that good. So that is how you make this sound. If you did go and download the pack and you followed along, one thing you'll notice is that the macros in the pack, the version in the pack, are assigned to the level of the sub and the level of oscillator B as well as the bend. And so that makes it super easy to kind of get different tones. So you can really play with it. The macros make it super easy to change the sound without totally destroying what sound you've already built. So I recommend using those, whether you downloaded it or if you want to just map those right now. I would usually start off at 0 and then map them up to 100%, and then you can just kind of... So play with the sound, play with the preset. It's a great starting point for getting those kind of interesting kind of bro-steppy leads. It's not totally a recreation of the Zomboy sound, That one has a little bit more of the pitch movement on it, which I didn't do. But overall, I think it came out pretty cool. If you like the tutorial and you learned something or you like the preset, go ahead and leave a thumbs up on the video. I really appreciate that, and it does wonders for my channel. And I will be eternally grateful. If you have any comments or questions about the tutorial, about the preset, about anything in general, feel free to leave those below. Other than that, guys, I'll be posting a tutorial every week, so hit the subscribe button if you're interested. I'm going to be doing a lot of production tutorials, a lot of sound design tutorials coming up, so be sure to subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching and dealing with my sickness that makes me sound terrible. Hopefully it wasn't too bad, and I really hope it's fixed for the next video. I'm trying to power through it right now, so we'll see. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys learned something. Take care.